Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of American Heroes Outdoors.
This week takes us back to Devil's Lake out of Woodland Resort, where we host the Patriot Fish Fest, which is an annual fundraiser and fishing event held on Devil's Lake every year in the winter. A gathering of heroes and ice fishing fanatics for a great cause. You know, this is truly an awesome event put on by Woodland Resort, Devil's Lake Tourism, obviously American Heroes Outdoors, and it's a time to hang out and gather on the ice, hard ice castles, really anything you got, and just get out there and have a good time.
It's going to be a great show, so stay tuned.
American Heroes Outdoors shares the stories of our nation's true heroes, a documentation of journey, commitment, struggle, and healing. A glimpse into the sacrifice and bravery of our service men and women. This is American Heroes Outdoors.
This is our first annual Patriot Fish Fest. We've been hosting tournaments as American Heroes Outdoors out of Woodland Resort for 7 years now. But it's been an absolute honor to be able to host the events that we do out of Devil's Lake and Woodland Resort. The community, the people, and the support that we've got from this area and the organizations is phenomenal. It feels like we're right at home every time we come back. Inside of Patriot Fish Fest, which is a 3-day event, we have the Honor Our Heroes Ice Tournament, which takes place tomorrow from 7 to 2. And let's be honest, that's why we're all here, to hang out together and catch fish.
Well, you know, I was really disappointed because it looked like COVID was going to wreck another event. You know, I mean, we've lost so many of those, of course, so like everybody has. Talking to Dave Morris, I'm like, well, there was some new rules from North Dakota. We couldn't put that many. Normally, we have a traditional weigh-in and a meal and all that stuff, and we put a couple hundred people in there in that building. Well, we couldn't do it at that point. So I asked Dave. I said, well, we may just have to cancel this thing, and it was disappointing. And he goes, I think I got another idea. So he came back and said, let's do this Patriot Fish Fest. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty neat concept, and let's do it where people can be in fish houses and there's snow bears and portables or whatever, it doesn't matter, and we'll do it virtually. And I saw some virtual tournaments last summer, and I'm like, hey, that works. People are getting it. They're actually pretty neat, and I'm just super surprised and happy of the turnout we got. It's great.
We've got to have veterans getting together in these groups and sharing those stories. If the stories don't get shared, they're going to be lost. And so I think in the future, the ability to bring people together, which is what is really the primary goal of this Patriot Fish Fest. I think it's important in the future to keep building this, because the larger we can grow that veteran and first responder community that can do get-togethers and gatherings like this, I think that's just important to just continue to honor them and their service, but also to maintain that history.
I went in the Corps and just, like I said, April, went in active duty in July, and by December I was in Vietnam. And we were there for a year, and then I extended for another 6 months. Our battalion was there for 6 years, so there's probably in the neighborhood of 6,000 people went through in our battalion alone over there, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. We suffered 560 killed in action and 3,400 wounded. So but you never heard a lot about that back then, because news media never came with the Marines. In 2005, they activated me. So when I was 55 years old, I went active duty for 2 years. Went through Fort Carson with 18-year-old kids taking a physical, and I made it. So got out and stayed in until I was 60 years old, and they retired me on my 60th birthday. I retired a master sergeant. That was probably always taking care of soldiers was my job. I mean, my job, and I was very adamant about it, you know. So and I think we did a good job. So.
And we just wanted people to be comfortable, and I think that was the biggest thing. We want people to feel like, hey, we can come do this weekend. And probably the bigger decision that we made was that this wasn't just going to be a fishing tournament anymore. In the past, it's been the tournament, and that was really it. And we turned it into our Patriot Fish Fest weekend, which is definitely going to continue here on Devil's Lake out of Woodland Resort. Everybody likes to come, have a tournament, hopefully catch fish and make a couple bucks. But at the end of the day, we wanted this to be an event that if people wanted to come, even if they didn't want to fish, even if they wanted to just hang out. So first responders, police, firefighters, veterans, we basically said, hey, just come to Devil's Lake, come to Woodland Resort, spend the weekend with us. And we've had a pretty good response. We've got a fair number of people here, and I think everybody's just having a good time. And now people are out trying to catch a few fish.
You got one on there?
I got one. I don't feel too big, but it's a fish. And maybe a perch. Oh yeah. Oh, not too bad. Another probably 11 incher, maybe. I would think. Not a bad. Nice eater. Fish fry tonight.
As far as Patriot Fish Fest goes, some of the things that we wanted to do was get out here on the ice and provide an environment where people could share their stories. And we got to do just that. We went around to different fish houses on the ice and we talked to heroes. We talked to firefighters, first responders, military, veterans. We thanked them for their service and just talked about their experiences and why they love the outdoors.
Joining us at Patriot Fish Fest is DAV Chapter 38 out of Park Rapids, Minnesota, who ironically ended up acquiring our original AHL Patriot House.
So today we're participating in the first annual Patriot Fish Fest. So we're out here trying to catch fish and win a tournament. The American Heroes Fish House, kind of a vision that we had to come up with a fish house, to get a fish house for us. I brought it up to our DAV committee. And kind of just threw the idea around a little bit of what we had. So now 2 days passed and I was looking on Marketplace and typed in fish house. And this popped up at a Chrysler dealership. And so I messaged the guy to see if it was still available. He said it was. He called me. We talked back and forth. And then I found out that all the proceeds of the fish house were going to go back to a local veterans organization. So I was able to talk to the owner of the fish house who won it on the drawing. Got together with my committee, my DAV committee. I got the green light to go for it, so then we drove down there. We actually paid for the house, and then the gentleman that we bought the house from turned around and donated the exact amount of money we paid for the house back to the American Legion. So it was a win-win for everyone.
And we're very lucky that our commissioners, my boss, really supports what we do. And coming out to this, it provides us an opportunity to get veterans maybe outside their comfort zone or provide them opportunities that they may not have. I mean, this is a beautiful ice castle, and some veterans may not have that. It really provides us to be able to provide more services to our community, to the veteran community, and that's why it's been so wonderful to have this place. In the community that I live in, I still consider myself a pretty young guy, but there's going to be a day where I may need some help or I may want to go fishing and I may need a little bit of assistance. And if this community that I live in still has a place like this where I'm able to go in a nice, safe environment, and all I have to do is sit down and they put a fishing rod in my hand, it could make my day someday, so I just want to do that to others and make their day.
Joining us at Patriot Fish Fest was somebody very special to our organization, Jeff Savico. We were able to recognize Jeff's service and sacrifices to our country by giving him a custom U.S. flag made by one of our American Heroes Outdoors ambassadors, Sam Burencott.
Her and her uncle make these flags for us, and we have an opportunity, from time to time to honor some people. And when she gave us this flag for this event, I knew exactly where I wanted it to go. So I talked to the rest of the board. You're like a second dad to me, and your stories help so many people. Your courage, your bravery, and your service to the country is second to none. And it would mean a lot for me for you to accept this flag from American Heroes Outdoors. Thanks. Thank you. You're welcome.
Go stand by there, Jeff. We gotta have a picture.
You look like a big guy. Yeah, I'll hold it.
You guys are right. Move on just a minute.
Appreciate you liking the mood, Larry.
American Heroes Outdoors is brought to you by SCHEELS, the Disabled American Veterans, Smoky Hills Outdoor Store, Skeeter Boats, and YAMAHA Outboards, Woodland Resort, Ottertail Lakes Country, Ice Castle Fish Houses, S&S Promotional Group, Devil's Lake Tourism, and Minnesota Truck Headquarters. Interested in supporting our mission at American Heroes Outdoors? Go to AmericanHeroesOutdoors.com to nominate your very own hero or drop a donation to support our nation's true heroes.
Just having so many people in our own community that are veterans and have served in the military at some point. So we really wrap ourselves around those heroes and really are appreciative for everything that they do, have done, and continue to do for us.
We trained a lot in the White Sands Missile Base in New Mexico, and when we weren't in good enough shape, they made us run out there from the base. It was 20 miles, and then we did training after that. And every day it was by 9 o'clock, if you touched your M14, your hand sizzled in any metal part. Then it got hot. And they had compassion. They bused us back to Fort Bliss, and we got in our World War II barracks with no air conditioning to cool off. And just before the sun came up again, it got down to 90 upstairs in the barracks. We did get called up a number of times. First one was a riot in North Dakota, I think the only one we ever had, called Zip to Zap. And we had 5,000 National Guard guys watching 3,000 people that camped on Main Street of Zap, North Dakota. Wow. And anyway, right after that happened, we had the flood of '69, and I was called up for 3 weeks. We had no levees or nothing in Valley City, and 24/7 we made levees and dikes and hauled clay and so on. There was a riot at Denver University, and for 3 weeks I was called up. The rioters were on one side and we were on the other side. And every place if you were a state call-up, not a federal, you got a real fantastic pay. Whether you were a private or a colonel, if you weren't full-time, you got $10 a day. And $10 a day, even in 1969 or 70, did not exactly pay your bills. But we did get our 3 squares a day and a cot to sleep on. But then there was more surprise call-ups. There was riots all over the country, and we'd have surprise call-ups and see how fast you could be assembled for the next riot that was going to happen, and so on. Finally, I got out a little over 6 years later.
Before we left Devil's Lake, we had to say thank you to our friends from Woodland Resort. Without them, none of this would be possible.
Woodland Resort has been a premier supporter and sponsor of everything we do. So this is like our home coming back here, the Devil's Lake community and Woodland Resort. So we'd like to just say thank you for your support of our mission and our heroes. It's just a small token, but talking to Sam, she wanted you guys to have this. I told her what it was, that you guys are close, near and dear to us, and her and her grandpa made this flag for you guys. We also have a plaque that we'd like to present. So thank you very much.
All good things must come to an end. We're looking forward to seeing you all next year at our 3rd annual Patriot Fish Fest at Woodland Resort, Devil's Lake, North Dakota.
We're sharing more stories on our social media pages, SCHEELS Hometown Heroes, Sunday Service Spotlight, and more. Help us share more stories of our servicemen and women.
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
And now it's time for our next SCHEELS Hometown Hero, Vince Reynolds.
Welcome to SCHEELS Hometown Heroes.
SCHEELS Hometown Heroes is a way for us to say thanks
to those that serve our country and our community,
and are still giving back to others today.
We honor your service by sharing your stories.
From all of us at SCHEELS, thank you for your service.
Hi, Vince. Vince, I am so very honored to be able to present this to you on behalf of SCHEELS. We are so thankful for everything you've done for our country, your time, your service, and your dedication. Not to mention the countless time you put in for Toys for Tots, collecting all those toys for all those children to open up toys on Christmas morning. I can't tell you how thankful we are for everything you do for this community. So thank you, and this is for you.
Well,
you have done amazing things.
It's one of those things where I can't remember a time where I wasn't going to enlist. It was just a matter of when I could. You know, I had no plans on going to college. It's just I knew I was going to join the Marine Corps.
Everything he does is about service, and service to country, service to neighbors, service to his community.
Well, my father was a Marine in World War II, and he died when I was 7 years old, so I didn't really get a chance to connect with him a lot on the military things. So a lot of it was, you know, hearing that he served and, you know, hearing stories. My mom was always big into doing community work and supporting your local community in whatever way she could, which is kind of the way I was brought up.
in high school. So we started to date, and Vince knew that he was going to be leaving for the Marine Corps, and so we didn't intend for anything to be serious, but we were still dating when he deployed.
So I enlisted the first time in 1986 when I went to boot camp in San Diego. After boot camp, I went to avionics school in Millington, Tennessee. That's where the Navy and Marine Corps had all their aviation schools at that point in time. Then I went to Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, and that's where I learned how to work on an aircraft called the A-6 Intruder. It's a Vietnam-era aircraft, but that's what I did for my first 6 years. During that time period with the Air Wing there, we deployed to the Mediterranean. That was a great eye-opening, kid from small town Minnesota, going up the Eiffel Tower and the Coliseum and climbing the pyramids. I mean, it was a dream come true.
I like to say I went to Eau Claire and Vince went to see the world, because I just went to college and he got to tour all kinds of fascinating places, travel with the Marine Corps, working, of course.
And I think that experience in those 6 months really focused my energies toward history. So when I eventually did get off active duty, after 6 years, went to college, got a teaching job back at my old high school, and I've been teaching her ever since.
My first impression was during the interview process. He was on the interview team with the teachers and staff, and I remember the way he shook my hand and said "Oorah" as a fellow Marine. I knew that I had a person in my corner right there during the interviews.
He is busy with many things. He teaches, he coaches, he's head track coach and has been for many years. He has been a volunteer firefighter in Hayfield for, I believe it's 18 years. He is a scoutmaster for Troop 50 in Hayfield, and he's been involved with Boy Scouts and has seen both of our boys through their scouting years and continues to do that.
I'm going to back up a little bit. My son, who's now in the Marine Corps, he just graduated from boot camp last fall. He was born in 9/11/01. So as the towers are falling, he's being born. So he was, born into it right away. And everybody, all former military, everybody wants to, get war's on, let's go fight.
I wasn't surprised, I'll put it that way, just because the Marine Corps is part of Vince. You don't stop being a Marine when you take off the uniform. And after a 14-year break in service, he went back into the Marine Corps as a reservist.
My kids were younger. My daughter, but she would have been 11. Then my boys would have been like 8 and 7. And I think they were nervous about Dad being gone. And missing that much of their life is painful for all of us. But I think in some ways they're stronger. And I think they have a better appreciation of what military families go through.
Well, it's not for me to limit his involvement because it's important for him to be able to serve, and that's where he shines. Vince was he's just the fellow that does whatever needs to be done. He's very handy, and I'm so grateful for that. So before he left, in order to be ready, I needed to make a list of all the different people. If this goes wrong, this is who I call. So I had that, and I knew several people in the community that I could call to help out. But what I didn't anticipate is that people stepped up and offered to help without me asking.
So I left active duty. Well, reservists are called active duty deployed, then they go back to reserve status. So that was in September of 2012 when I got back from Afghanistan. I was ready to be home for a while. You know, I'd done enough for, not enough, but I'd done a lot for the country. Now it's time to focus on home. And that's when I got roped into Toys for Tots.
His efforts with Toys for Tots is just one example of how he goes above and beyond for others.
Here in our area, anybody knows anything about Toys for Tots, you know about Vince Reynolds.
But when I got back in 2012, I took it over officially, and that was a huge way for me to not only represent the Marine Corps, but also serve my community directly. So being able to wear the uniform, you know, around my hometown, they never see people in uniform at all, let alone their teacher in a Marine Corps uniform.
I get excited every year when it becomes the day that he gets to come in and they do all the shopping, because we get to shop with him and donate to Toys for Tots, and he cares so much about the program, so it's just been fun.
I mean, he's got the right people in place, and they do their jobs, and he's the man pulling the strings and getting the right people in the right spots so they can, you know, the program is successful, and he's done a fantastic job with it.
I look at it as people helping people, and that's exactly what it is. And that's really what drives me is doing my part to help my community.
What a great event. This wraps it up for our first annual Patriot Fish Fest. A lot of great stories, a lot of fun, great organizations involved. We're really looking forward to next year. Look us up at AmericanHeroesOutdoors.com.
And stay tuned for next week, folks, when we go up to Voyageurs National Park to Voyageurs Houseboat with the Disabled American Veterans of Minnesota, and you're going to go fishing out on Rainy Lake, and you're going to meet one of our newest hosts, retired Sergeant Major Mike Warden.